Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 27th Lebanon City Council meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilwoman Messenger, will you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we'll move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mike Kincaid.
Present.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Dick Robertson.
Here.
John Copeland.
Here.
Brent Wheat. Absent. Sierra Messenger.
Present.
Morris Jones.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes? Okay, would entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, those are approved. And then also, as part of this opening, we do have a slightly delayed. Morris, of course, you're already on the council here with us, but we do have to officially swear you in. So if you join us up front real quick.
Yay.
I, Morris Jones,
I, Morris Jones,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and diligently discharge the duties of the City Common Council District 3
of the City Common Council District 3
according to the law
and
and the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Thank you.
There you go.
Welcome back.
Good elbow. Good elbow.
We live in interesting times. All right, so next up is old business. The first item we have here is a revisiting the discussion concerning the Lebanon Youth Council mural. At our meeting, I believe, 2 meetings ago?
It's in June. And
Our last meeting in June, some of the council discussion essentially said you guys wanted us to use the Casino Riverboat Fund, but the challenges, I guess, Joe, you want to explain some of the challenges for Tanya. Long story short, because it's being funded by a grant through the state, it's actually a more tedious process to try to do it through that fund. We'd have to do the disappropriation to receipt the money in and then back out again. So was hoping to have a discussion on if you guys are comfortable just doing a food and beverage. And Joe, you want to kind of reintroduce the project to everybody and kind of talk about what's going on?
Yeah, as the mayor stated back in June, we had amazingly the number of technical difficulties with the presentation, as you may have recalled, and the WebEx stuff going on with the high school students of Lebanon High School. They had the mural picked out. They were working with a local mural maker and had a couple of different walking tours of downtown and surrounding areas. Councilman Copeland joined us at Arnie's to kind of talk about that. And in June at that meeting, it was voted on to take the money, the $2,500 that it was going to take, through the help of Amy Hammerling with the Boone County Economic Development Corporation. The Lebanon Youth Council was able to apply for and was granted a QIP grant, a Quick Impact Grant, and the total amount of $5,000, $2,500 to be put up by the city to have that matched through the state. And so the decision was made to pull out of Casino Riverboat. And so going forward with that, Clerk Treasurer Thayer kind of alerted us to the obstacles that came with choosing that fund to be able to take in funds from the state. It's not typically something that's done because that Casino Riverboat is so much different from other funds, such as the food and beverage, where taking in funds is a bit more streamlined. And so we had the conversation with Clerk Treasurer Thayer and brought in Mia as well, and the mayor to kind of just talk about how that can most effectively be done, to be able to have the funds for the mural and being able to take the money that was approved by the city council to put forth as the city's funding for this project, this grant, to be able to get money then from the state to be able to turn loose to have this mural painted. And so I'd love to discuss further. And Clerk Treasurer there, please feel free to jump in if I missed anything to kind
I
of
think
help
you
educate
both
that.
said it all. It basically just boils down to, we would have to do an additional for $2,500 to put it in Casino Riverboat and then take it out, and that seems like a small amount of money to do an additional for, when we can go in and out of food and beverage with no questions asked.
So the additional means you have to apply to the state?
Yeah, and get approved. It actually,
And that takes time
even,
and-
and even though we're adding money to the fund, it still is an additional, because it wasn't in our budget as being money received into the city. So
Right.
just kind of an and that's what, a 10-day waiting period and
Yeah.
all that.
It's like, it's like taking the riverboat fund.
Yeah, but
Okay, you
it's
take the
gonna take a couple
riverboat
months.
fund, you ask for additional, and that additional actually she has to make it a line item for that, in that fund, and that money goes into that fund, into that line item to be approved to be used for that. Whereas if we just, for that little bit
Yeah,
amount of
I
money,
got
if we
that.
just take it out of food and
So-
beverage, it's just, we've already approved X amount for projects. So.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you entertain a motion then, John?
We take the $2,500 out of food and beverage for the Lebanon Youth Council for their mural, and that would be my motion of $2,500.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. All right, I know the youth council thanks you, I know Tanya thanks you as well. She has less paperwork for her, so. Okay, that concludes old business. Is there any other old business from the council? Okay, move on to new business now. Item we have here is ordinance 2020-07, consideration of the Artman property annexation to the city of Lebanon, Indiana. And this ordinance is on first reading, and there will be a public hearing associated with it as well, too. So we'll turn it over to Ben Bontrager to introduce this topic.
All right, good evening, council members. I'll just take a brief moment here to introduce this to you. We received a voluntary annexation request for a piece of property that's on East Washington Street. If they want to bring up the screen, I can kind of show you where we're talking about. This is actually a portion of what would have been additional sections of Edgewood that were planned back in the day that never constructed. You probably can't see it real well on the screen, but there's actually even some platted streets and lots in this area already to the west. And this would just represent annexing the remainder of this piece of property that's in this area. And this would actually be to facilitate a residential development that's being proposed that will be filed for zoning approvals here shortly. One thing I just would note, you can see here that the yellow line that I outlined as being the perimeter of the annexation area doesn't follow the annexation lines and the city limits that are shown in the county GIS. And I will assure you that's because the county GIS is not correct. We had to research annexation ordinances from the late 60s and early 70s to find where the actual boundary was. And there was what would have been the additional section of Edgewood was annexed at some point in time that was this area that you kind of see here. But we did find that this is the correct boundary for the city limits here, and so we wrote the legal description for the annexation territory based on that previous annexation ordinance. So that's why there's a little bit of discrepancy in where the city boundary is shown in the county GIS versus what I have outlined here. But we have confirmed with the petitioner's engineer that this is the correct boundary. So this is the area in question. The applicant is proposing a residential development. In terms of process, this is the first reading for the annexation ordinance tonight. At your next meeting, first meeting in August, then there would be the second reading and potential adoption of the annexation ordinance along with the adoption of the fiscal plan by resolution. Then that would start the clock on the 30-day waiting period for the annexation. Once that 30-day waiting period is over, the annexation becomes effective in early September. They're intending to file so they can be on the Plan Commission's agenda for the September meeting, which would be middle of September, probably about a week after the annexation becomes effective. Right now, they are proposing to come in for plan unit development, rezoning for the property for a single-family home neighborhood. So this annexation in no way, shape, or form approves the residential development or even suggests that it's feasible on this property. This is just the annexation at this time, and then it'll come back to the council for the rezone in late September and early October for your review and approval at that time. Happy to answer any questions if there are.
And then just to clarify for the record too, so this is one property owner that approached the city This is
that's
not the
correct.
city annexing just
Yeah,
without their
this is
permission?
this was a property owner-initiated annexation request. It is 100% voluntary.
Okay.
Hey, Ben,
Yes, sir.
I've heard for years and years that no one built back there because it was in a floodplain. Any truth to that?
Yes, actually, a significant portion of Edgewood that's already developed is in the floodplain also. I would guess probably 30% or so of this property is in the floodplain, and it kind of follows the creek that's on the south side and on the east side of this area. So that's actually one of the big challenges. That's why I said that this in no way suggests that the residential development is feasible, because there's a lot of challenges to this site, and the floodplain is one of them. So what the developer is looking at is ways of doing cut and fill in this area to create some areas outside, to move some areas outside the floodplain and then create additional volume within other areas, so that it's not, so that they'll be able to have a feasible development area. That being said, they're still only probably going to be developing maybe about 60% of this total property. The rest will remain in floodplain or in the wooded areas that they're going to retain a lot of. So they're able to get about, it's a little over 110 lots that are proposed right now. That might change since they haven't filed yet. But that's 110 lots on about 50 acres or so. So it's, overall, it's not very dense because of the amount of the property that they can't develop on.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions from council?
50 acres total?
Well, this annexation, I think, is about 35.
Okay.
When you count the area that's already in the city, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 50-ish. I don't remember the total acreage, but it's in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Any additional questions from council?
No, sir.
Okay. At this time, I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2020-07. If you have any comments, please step forward. Please also share your name and address for the record. Other than that, the public hearing is now open. No further sudden movements. Okay, I will now close the public hearing on ordinance 2020-07. Any further discussion, comments from council? And I'll have Rob read it in first reading.
No, sir.
Okay, Rob, can you go ahead and read it on first reading, please?
Question real quick. Did you say that the fiscal plan will come right before the second reading?
Yes, I should
Okay.
actually have the draft sometime this week, and once I've
Okay.
reviewed it, I'll get that sent out, so you have plenty of time to
Okay.
review it.
Okay.
Yeah, we always adopt the fiscal plan before we do the second reading on it, Dick. So,
I will also just quickly point out that petitioner had a neighborhood meeting last Thursday that I understand was fairly well attended by neighbors in the area, and primarily positive discussion. So I was expecting some neighbors to show up tonight, because I mentioned it to the Plan Commission last week, but they must have heard some good information last week, because we don't have anybody here, so.
okay. Rob, you go ahead and read the ordinance on first reading, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Ordinance 2020-07, as Ben indicated, 100% of the owners of the parcels proposed for annexation identified in Exhibits A and B have filed a voluntary petition with this council. The City of Lebanon Advisory Plan Commission held its public hearing at their meeting on July 20th, 2020, and forwarded docket 20-17 to this council with a favorable recommendation 9-0 to assign the single-family residential SF2 zoning classification for the annexation area. This council has conducted a public hearing on this day, July 27, 2020, as required by law, and it will adopt a fiscal plan for the annexation of the annexation area in accordance with Indiana law. This annexation area meets the contiguity requirements that's set forth in Indiana law. Therefore, the annexation area, generally bordered by Edgewood subdivision to the west, John Bart Road to the east, Fordyce Road to the north, and Washington Street to the south, and adjacent to the existing corporate limits along with the southern and western boundaries of the annexation, is declared annexed to and declared to be a part of the city of Lebanon. It's further to include the contiguous public highways and right-of-ways of the public highways, and it's assigned Council District 1 and shall become a part thereof immediately upon effective date of the annexation. And again, it's assigned single-family residential zoning classification, and as Ben indicated, it would become in full force and effect upon adoption and the applicable 30-day waiting period.
Thank you, Rob. Any additional questions, comments concerning, now that it's been read by the council? Any additional public comments from the public? Yep. All right, ordinance 2020-07 has been read on first reading. We will address it at our next meeting, which will be August 10th. That concludes what I have for new business for council. Is there anything from council?
No, sir.
Okay. We would move on to claims. We entertain a motion concerning the claims.
Make a motion to pay claims.
We have a motion to pay the claim. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Claims are approved. Any announcements, discussion?
No.
Okay. Would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Our next city council meeting will be August 10th at 7:15 PM. Thanks for watching.